I woke in my bed. Something was off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I knew I was in danger. I got up just as a spike fell from the small hole in my ceiling. It impaled the mattress where I was laying. I knew something else was coming. I ducked down just as a bullet flew through my window, narrowly missing me. I don't know how, but I knew that it would happen. It was almost as if it was in my mind already. I looked to the door. Unsafe, a thought rang out in my head. I looked and saw above my dresser a hatch that I hadn't noticed before. I scrambled up and found myself on top of my room. But there was no attic. Instead, there was just a sprawling, dimly lit hangar-like structure. I found myself outside of the small structure which extended around the huge hangar. I walked along and found an elevator nearby. Down the elevator, I found a room, darkened, except for the faint glow of a computer terminal. I walked up to it and found it had actions, logs. I looked into the logs. Each log was titled Test Number, and then numbers from 1 through 174. I began to read from the beginning. As soon as I clicked on the first file, a voice rang out in the room.
Test subject number 1 was impaled by time-delayed spike while lying on mattress with no attempt to avoid.
I continued clicking through.
Test subject number 2. Subject impaled by time-delay spike. Subject attempted to vacate mattress before time-delay spike.
I skipped ahead.
Test number 73. Subject evaded time-delay spike. Gunshot avoided. Trapdoor avoided. Subject vital signs terminated in trapdoor fall.
I couldn't believe it. All these test subjects were being herded through a deadly gauntlet of sorts. I dug more into the computer terminal, and suddenly the floodlights came on, revealing pod after pod after pod in this massive room. The voice read on.
Genetic memory is a precursor of danger avoidance for the betterment of awareness in combat and civilian settings. A series of traps have been created to test subjects on danger premonitions. Each failed subject's genetic code will be extracted and superimposed onto next subject. Once a subject reaches the end of the maze, their genetic material will be superimposed onto a genetically non-similar subject to test ability of transfer between individuals.
I slowly approached one of the pods. Gazing inside, I saw a man. He was suspended in some sort of fluid, with wires protruding from his body. On his right shoulder, he had a tattoo that simply had the number 175. I looked at the next pod, and an identical man silently floated inside. On his right shoulder, he had 176. I froze. These pods, there were hundreds of them, each one with the same man inside. The only difference was the numbers on their shoulders. I looked into 175's pod. My face stared back at me, overlaying his expressionless face. It was the same. I shakily looked to my right shoulder. Pulling the shirt away, I read the number 174. As my mind raced, processing this, trying to remember anything before that bed, the voice continued.
Warning. Subject 174 has not been monitored inside the viable testing range for over 5 minutes. Executing recall maneuver R64.
I felt something seize inside me. Then, I woke up in my bed. I had the strangest dream, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But I knew I was in danger.